Welcome to another episode of the No Ceilings Podcast. I'm Tyler Metcalf, joined as always by the one and only Tyler Rucker. Rucker, how are we doing?
Doing good, Mr. Metcalf. We're recording a little early today, but Metcalf's on the grind later today. You're going to be live in action, aren't you, sir?
Yeah, I appreciate your flexibility. You know, I get a special opportunity to go check out some of the Gopher and Buckeye prospects in person tonight. So excited to go see Cam Christie, Pharrell Payne, Dawson Garcia, Felix Okpara, Scotty Middleton. Hopefully he gets legitimate minutes tonight. Who knows? Roddy Gale. It should be fun. So, recording this a little earlier in the day. Thanks for everyone already tuning in. You guys are the best and continue to be so. But we got a fun one today. We're just going to have a mailbag for about half hour or so, get into the stock game based on Corey's updated community rankings that he put out last week. Him, and Albert also ran through those yesterday or on Thursday's pod. So make sure to go check that out as well. And then we're going to wrap up with the usual kind of green room and dive right into rookie roulette with Cason Wallace. And for covering Cason, Andrew Schlecht was kind enough to come back on the show and talk with me about one of the Thunder's most intriguing kind of young pieces going forward. So full slate today, Rucker. Let's just dive right into the mailbag. You sent out a tweet yesterday asking for questions. My notifications were on fire after that. So hit me with it, because I know we got a lot of them.
A lot of them, probably a lot of questions that me and you are going to have to get into deep thought. And thank you for everyone for sending this. We're going to try to get as many possible questions as we can because of how wide open this draft is. Some of these questions are just the sickos, are really deep in their thoughts. So, let's start out with the little Spurs question from our man Noah. Noah asked, which wings between Modest Buzelis, Ron Holland, Cody Williams, and Zachary Richeche do you like most for the Spurs? Metcalf, what are your thoughts?
It's got to be Richeche. He's number one on my board, and I think I'm not really sure that there's a lineup that I don't love him in, especially at the top of the draft, let alone anywhere. He just feels like one of those low maintenance, highly efficient, two-way versatile guys who has the potential to be the best player in this draft when everything's said and done. So just his length, his consistency this year, his numbers shooting in transition, even defensively, they've all been really, really good. And they've been consistent from start to finish. So I don't see how he's not a top three guy at minimum right now. So he's a pretty easy answer for me right now.
Yeah, I think Richeche would be the number one if you were making a board about the Spurs and we're only focusing on wings. I think Richeche would be at the top for me. I guess let's try to get deeper on this because we both know we love Zach. What would be the rest of your rankings there? Would Cody be at number two for you?
So it was Zach, Cody. What were the other two names?
Buzelis or Ron Holland. So the Ignite guys, Cody Williams, and then our boy Zachary Richeche. So
yeah, it'd probably be in that order for me, honestly. It'd probably be Zach, Cody, Modest, and then Ron.
I think so for me too. I think this is a very big upcoming stretch for Buzelis, which I would not be shocked if Buzelis gets ahead of Cody if he could really start to cook. Talked about it in my piece today about like this is a very important stretch for Buzelis with Ron Holland out for the rest of the year. Like he's going to get peppered with touches and minutes, and it's time for him to really spread his wings. And if he can do that, I think he's going to be the one name that heats up the most. Could get in that top three conversation potentially if the outside shot starts coming around. So, I would still lean Richeche at number one for me for the Spurs, but I also could see maybe they do love Ron Holland. Maybe it's a roll of the dice there. But for me, I probably would say Richeche, Cody, Buzelis, Holland. And I love Holland still, so I don't want everyone to think like, oh, these guys don't like. I think me and you like Holland still.
Yeah, and all four of those guys are top 8 for me right now. I just think the kind of variance and outcomes with Holland is still kind of the greatest, even though he might still have the highest ceiling out of all of those guys. I'm just more confident in the kind of peaks that Ricochet, Cody can hit. And I still think Modest is going to shoot it. And at minimum, having a 6'9", 6'10", 40+% spot up shooter who has improved defensively, especially with his weak side rim protection and stuff, it's a pretty solid baseline to have.
I completely agree. All right, let me get another question here. Let's stay with Buzelis. Kind of a draft philosophy, scouting philosophy question here from MP, aka at Kevin Gelly Stan. We love that. When you are going about evaluating shooting with prospects, how much do you weigh recent data versus high school data? Example, Buzelis shooting 26% this year versus 43% at Sunrise Christian. Is the form more indicative of future success or the stats? I'm going to let you take that one first, just because I'm looking up some stats for other questions we got coming on.
Yeah.
Some deeper names.
This one's always a little tricky. I rarely put a whole lot of weight on like high school shooting percentages, just because the disparity in size, athleticism, skill based on competition is so vast. What I look at more is shot attempts, volume, difficulty, that kind of stuff combined with the form. So, I think with Buzelis, he's not the only guy that we've seen really struggle transitioning straight from the high school line to the NBA line. And it's not just the distance that he's adjusting to, it's the pace of play, it's the heightened physicality, it's the increased minutes, the increased games played. And that takes a real toll on your legs and your stamina and your endurance and all of that kind of stuff. So I I'm really not that worried that he's shooting 26% from three or whatever the number you said was. I don't think he's going to be a 44% 3-point shooter in the pros like he was in high school. I think he's going to fall somewhere probably in the high 30s for his whole career when everything's said and done. But I also wouldn't necessarily label him as an elite shooter in this class, because I don't think he's taking a lot of like the really high difficulty shot attempts that we see from guys. Like Jordan Hawkins, his last year at UConn, I think his 3-point percentage was like 37, 38, like high 30s. Same with Benedict Mathurin. But you would never classify those guys as kind of mediocre average shooters because they were taking such high difficulty shot attempts. So when you look at those guys' shot attempts, like the difficulty, the variety, the movement, compared to Buzelis, they're just different. They're different types of shooters. So I think Buzelis has real legit upside as just a spot up knockdown shooter, as an outlet in the corner, top of the key, that type of stuff. But I think if you're thinking about him as a Cam Johnson movement shooter, or someone who's going to be running off screens and knocking stuff down and consistently creating for himself and knocking down step backs consistently, I think that's kind of billing him in an incorrect light.
Completely agree. I think high school stats are always very, very, I would say I'm cautious towards the high school stats. Obviously, if you're, one of the top 10 prospects and you're putting up just freak of nature, 5 blocks or 4 steals, like, yeah, that's really impressive. But I think the 3-point shooting percentage always is a little concerning of like, oh, he shot 45%. He must be an unbelievable shooter. I think we're seeing that with Buzelis. Like, I had my concerns doing it there, and then also letting that translate into the next part of his game was something I wanted to see if it really did happen before I put him as this, oh, he's a lethal outside shooter that's going to be dominant. I'm waiting for it to turn around, because me and you have talked about it on previous episodes with Buzelis, staying with him. He's taking steps forward. They're not huge steps, but they are baby steps. And the one thing that could really get his stock cooking again is if that outside shot comes around on a more consistent level. I buy the form. I'm usually someone that I'm buying the form if I have questions, like, especially if they're one and done prospect where it's like, hey, they didn't shoot it the way we're thinking, but it's only going to be their only year. I'm leaning towards buying the form moving forward, compared to, if someone's been at college for 3 years and they haven't really found their groove from deep, but the form looks okay, I might be a little bit more cautious, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
All right, fine. I'll move on to another question. That was a good one. Okay, we had a couple questions about Deron Holmes. So I'm going to kind of combine two of these. Talentless asked one about Deron Holmes as prospects. How far are Filipowski and Deron Holmes for you? What are the biggest separators between them? Can either play power forward full time / have offensive skills to be a forward and defend on the perimeter against forward wings. And then we also had someone that said, or Trevor, our boy Trevor said, what team is an ideal fit for Deron Holmes? So we can kind of workshop that one. He's really good, Metcalf.
Yeah, he's having a hell of a year.
He's having a hell of a year. I looked up his numbers, his recent numbers, actually right before we hit this, because a couple of weeks ago I did a scouting notebook and I was like, I think we're all sleeping on Deron Holmes. That was for the No Ceilings Plus subscribers. Love you guys. And his last 11 games, he's averaging 22.8 points, 9.3 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 2.2 blocks, shooting splits of 57, 32, 68 on 3.1 3-point attempts per game. I've been cooler on him throughout the year. And then when I did that scouting notebook, I went back and watched Holmes and I was like, my man is doing work. And I've just loved what I've seen. Wouldn't shock me if he's, I think he belongs in the first round right now for what he's doing on the court.
Probably.
But the fit is very interesting. What are your biggest differences? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that question said Filipowski between Deron Holmes and him. What are the biggest differences for you? Is it the idea that we're buying the shot with Filipowski more? Because Holmes has made that part of his game this year. And there's a difference between making it part of your game and introducing it enough to where now it's a threat. Because we know Deron can play bully ball. He can put it on the ground and get somewhere in a hurry. My biggest thing with Holmes last year, they force-fed the crap out of him. And this year he's been more versatile. It's a little bit more all over. So I think that's a big step when it comes to development.
Yeah, and I definitely like how he's shown more versatility, a little bit more versatility out of the role. Last year it was just so post-up heavy. It was insufferable, and it was all stuff that's like, all right, you're putting up impressive numbers, but none of this you're ever going to be asked to do at an NBA level. While he's improved in that area, I think Filipowski's versatility out of the role, his ability to pick and pop, is probably on a similar level, but the passing out of the short roll, the ability to kind of catch, spin against a defender, finish through contact, I think is really special. I think he's moving better on the perimeter defensively too. The big thing though is that Filipowski's physicality this year has just been overwhelming. I have a lot of kind of concerns about how he scores efficiently at the next level, but this dude doesn't back down from anyone. He's constantly battling, drawing a ton of fouls, rebounding the crap out of the ball. I know all of Holmes's kind of rebounding and shot blocking numbers are just as good, if not better, than Filipowski's, but the style in which they're getting to those numbers, I think Filipowski's is oddly a little more translatable. I'm still not totally convinced with the shot because it looks good. It's looked good for 2 years. It just doesn't go in as much as it feels like it should. He looks like he should be, almost a 40% 3-point shooter. He's down around, I think, 35%, which is fine in the grand scheme of things because he's probably not taking more than 2 a game. But I think how much better his footwork and kind of lateral agility has looked this year compared to last year, combined with that physicality, is kind of the big differentiator between him and Holmes right now for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the shot. Filipowski's been one of those names that last year I was struggling to buy in on him as a potential late lottery top 20 guy, just because I was like, hey, this is an idea that the shot should be coming around, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
So I was very pumped when he announced like, hey, I'm going to go back for another year. I was like, great. This is a fantastic surprise. I love to see this because you can build off of that freshman year in a big way. And I think I wrote about this in my piece that went up today at No Ceilings. I wrote about Filipowski, and I said one of the biggest developments with him happened before he even played this year. He got off-season hip surgery. He talked about like it's been something that's bothering him since high school. And right away, he's like, oh, I could tell huge difference. He's
Yeah.
like, this has been bugging me, driving me crazy. I played through it. He had a good year besides playing through it. And you can see it on tape. He's more fluid. He looks like he's got a little bit more pop in his step, but the outside shot's trending the right direction. Don't have updated numbers, but when I wrote about it, it was 28% from three last year. This year, he's around 35%, which Metcalf was hinting at. That's a big jump in the right direction. We've said since the beginning, if he could be a pick and pop asset and be hovering that high 30%, it's a huge, huge development. I like when he battles. He's tough in the boards. He's not going to be afraid of the moment. So I like Filipowski a lot. Holmes, I'm just one of those guys. I feel like he just keeps producing, and you just have to keep convincing yourself, like, okay, is this fool's gold and a great situation for him this year, or is this something legit? But like at the end of the first round, we're talking potential fits. Like Phoenix could make a lot of sense if they love them.
Yeah.
Milwaukee, Denver, teams like that. Maybe Wizards with that second pick. Maybe we were talking last episode about them getting a potential big like Oso, but maybe Deron Holmes could be in that mix. I don't know.
Would you hate Holmes in Boston?
No, I would love that because
Yeah.
I think he impacts. That's where this draft is going to be really fun for bigs, because teams like that are going to be like, what if we had Deron Holmes off the bench? What if we bring him along and make it simple for him? That's why I like those guys where it's like Oso, Deron Holmes, Bona, even like I think teams are going to buy into like this could be a very fun piece in our rotation if we have a specific need for what they do at a high level. So I would love Holmes there. Maybe Philly, maybe he can make sense there. You never know. A lot of similarities with him and Embiid. Everyone calm down with that statement. I'm just saying a lot of similarities with the kind of how they play. So if you get Embiid out of the game, maybe Holmes replaces him.
Yeah, and I think one of those questions in that kind of string was, could either of these guys play at the 4? I don't think Holmes can. I think
No.
he's too slow laterally to defend out there in space, at least consistently. Occasional pick and roll switches, he can hold his own for limited amounts of time. But I think Filipowski can, not full time, obviously, but when we talk about fits, the idea of him and Chet playing together, I think, makes a lot of sense. I think they could do that. I think he could play in Orlando, whether as the 4 or the 5. So I'm not sure that I love the idea of Filipowski as a full time 4, but split minutes between there and the 5. I think that is really, really feasible for him. I think a little less so for Holmes.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm going to go to the comments for a couple here real
Ooh,
quick.
good. Thanks for everyone throwing some questions in the comments.
From Cosmo, does this draft remind you of the 2020 draft at all, where most of the top guys coming in aren't putting up great numbers, but end up being better as pros, i.e. Buzelis, Holland, Sarr?
I'm looking at the 20 draft right now.
That's Ant and LaMelo,
Ant,
right?
Wiseman, LaMelo, Patrick Williams, Okoro, Okongwu.
So my pushback
Hayes,
on that, my pushback on that was that kind of coming into the year, Anthony Edwards was like a solidified number 1, who a lot of people had, or saw some superstar upside in. LaMelo had, baseline of being one of the best playmakers in the league at a minimum, at 6'7" or however big he is. So I think those guys kind of had pretty solidified standing amongst scouts in the league and media people with surefire elite skills basically from day one. This class, I think, has lacked a lot of that. I think there have been a lot more questions around the top guys. I think there have been a lot more uncertainty and movement among the top guys. So I get where the thought process is there, but I think those a couple of those guys at the very top of the 2020 draft, at least at the start of the year, kind of solidified themselves and hung on to that all year, even though there were, the various questions and whatnot throughout.
Yeah, I think 2020 was challenging because, I had Ant at 1. I thought when the Timberwolves got the number 1 pick, it should have been Ant. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I think there was a debate at least there where it was Ant or LaMelo. a lot of people thought like Minnesota should go in that direction. So there was certainty with that. I think whoever gets the first pick this year, we're still going to be like, there's 3 guys they could go with, or there's 4 guys you could go with. And, you look at that class, Tyrese Halliburton goes 12th, which I still, every time I look at it, can't wrap my head around. Devin Vassell. But recently, this class, or if you look at the 21 or 20 class, it got a little stronger because Neesmith has kind of rebirthed himself in Indiana. He's turned into a heck of a piece. Devin Vassell, obviously great. Denny Avdia's latest showing, fantastic. So yeah, and Maxey looks like a steal still. But so there's a lot of questions, but I think with this class, we're still going to have the same hesitations, even more than that year.
Yeah.
Because I know Wiseman was a bit of a wild card, but this year now that we have like 5 wild cards right off the bat. So, all right, I'm going to get a fun question to balance it out. And then our boy Nathaniel has a deep thinker.
Oh boy.
Metcalf will like this one from Michael Stamps. I have Jacoby Walters number 1 player on my board. Do I not know what I'm talking about, or is there some merit behind it? I love questions like that because I get it. This is the year where like we haven't had the chance to talk about Jacoby, so we should do it right now. Obviously, shout out Michael. Where are we at, Mr. Metcalf?
The vibes aren't great now.
They're not great. I'm gonna pull up his recents.
So I'm just kind of looking at Bartorvik right now. The assist rate is up to almost 10, which is fantastic. The 3-point percentage is down to 32.9, which is less fantastic. On 11.5 attempts per game, I'm still holding firm belief in him. He is not my number 1 guy anymore. He was for a lot of the year. Coming into the year, he was. I have him down to 6. If you're just... I think this is really the draft, though, where if you're like, you know what, this is my guy. I am all in. I love what I see. I see the potential. I see the vision of what he could be. I think this is a draft to really just kind of hold firm on that. I think Jacoby's been put in a lot of really tough positions on that Baylor team where the spacing isn't great or consistent on that team, and he gets a ton of grenades thrown at him where they're like, all right, well, 4 seconds left. Here you go. Not great. The kind of space creation, the on-ball creation has been inconsistent at best. The on-ball defense has been a struggle. So I still really like him. I would be more than happy to take a swing on him. I think his upside is really fascinating. I just can't get on board with the number 1 overall anymore.
His first 24 games, he was averaging 14-4, 1-1 on 38, 33, 85. And I was curious because it's reminded me of a similar feeling I had last year of I really like this guy, but the shooting splits aren't there. Am I overthinking the shooting splits? Ironically enough, it was a guy last year that played at Baylor in Keontae George. And I've looked at his first 24 games and it's 17, 4, and 3 on 39, 34, 80. What I'm getting at is obviously Keontae's versatility was much more popping and much more intriguing with the playmaking. But I'm at the point now where if Jacoby, wherever he gets drafted, if he all of a sudden thrives as a rookie, I'm going to be like, so now at Baylor, do we just not care about the shooting splits? Like, is Scott Drew just ruining us? I wrote about this in my piece. I don't mean to keep bringing it up, but I talked about every single prospect possible because I wanted to give a sales pitch for everyone to like help you get, I did a roadmap. I tried to get everyone to be like, hey, let me help you navigate away from the headaches. And Jacoby, I wrote, the shooting splits are getting ugly, but this is the guy that gets to the pre-draft process. And we hear that rumor that he did the 3-point exhibition where he shoots 85 out of 100 and just lights it up.
So.
And I think that'll happen. And he starts heating up again. So situation is everything. We can't let 1 year tell the story. And I'm right there with Metcalf. I think it's easy to start moving him down a little bit. I have to, but I also think if this is the year, go with your gut. If you've done the work, go with your guys. And I think Jacoby has the tools in which he could be something nasty at the next level. But I think it's just that pre-draft process is going to be interesting. He would be awesome if he just snaps out of it and has like a 3-game stretch where he's just like nuclear and would be like, okay, here we go. But right now it's been been rough. I think he's shooting like 30-20 lately. So it's been really, really fun there. Okay, back to the deep stuff. Nathaniel Miller threw us 2, and then he commented and said probably a better one. So I'm going to go with the better one. Who are the prospects, quote, the finishers who would have benefited from playing with an elite college point guard, and who are the prospects you think may not be as good because they play in such a good context?
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's going to be a deep one. So finishers.
Okay, so let's split that up into what was the first part?
Who's
played with
an elite college point guard
whose stock has been elevated because
of their point guard play.
Rocks. Oh boy.
Sorry, folks. Hold for a second. I'm not going to say Filipowski, although I do like their guards. I think Filipowski just does some stuff.
Yeah. I would say Jared McCain has almost been hurt by Duke's point guard play because he's been put into entirely an off-ball role. While
are we saying this is just he says finishers as his big man?
No, I think like rim runners, spot up shooters, guys who can't create their own shot but get set up as a play finisher.
Because it's funny when you look at all the bigs, I'm like, I don't think anyone has a standout point guard right now.
No,
Oso's playing with Kolek, but they're just good.
Yeah,
Klingon. Yeah,
but I think he'd be doing that with anyone. And they have so many different ball handlers and creators and whatnot on that team, anyways.
It's a deep question. It's a good one.
Caravan?
Furphy? No, Furphy knows his role. Furphy also puts himself open. You know what I'm trying to say with Furphy. I'm not trying to get
he finds those open pockets, and I think he creates outlets for the ball handler rather than the other way around. Oh boy, this is I'm struggling with
Caravan could be a good one.
Because I think he's a good off-ball mover and stuff, but the self-creation isn't really there for him. I think Antonio Reeves could be in that conversation with his ability to kind of play off of Reed and Rob and DJ and all those guys.
Gregory Castillo with a good little suggestion in the comments. Cody with KJ Simpson. See, the problem is that Cody also does some stuff on his own.
Right.
KJ's just been sensational. So if we're putting that in the conversation, then is it Tristan Da Silva? But I also just think that those guys are just cooking.
I think Da Silva's in the elevator of everyone around him. I know the point guard play with the Ignite isn't great, but could Tyler Smith be in this conversation?
And I don't want to put that as a negative because I think Tyler Smith's really, really smart.
And I think he's playing the role that he should play in the NBA as just a lethal knockdown shooter.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
because I'm clearly aware. I'm like, no, because they're just force feeding him, even when he's full. They're still putting a spoon in front of his mouth and being like,
"What about Kwame Evans?"
That one's probably there.
It's kind of tough because, I know the main intrigue with him too is just the defense. So anything he's kind of getting offensively is being kind of set up and manipulated by Shellstad. So it's tough.
Let's do part 2. Part 2 might be easier.
Part 2.
Who are the prospects you think may not be as good because they play in such a good context? That one might be a little easier. I'm sorry, everyone's going to hate me. I would probably say Ware.
I don't get it with Ware at all. I think Coach Woodson is using him and maximizing every ounce of ability from Ware and is constantly putting him in the perfect spot to succeed. I know that Indiana team hasn't been perfect this year, but I can't imagine Ware being used much more effectively than he has been. I think that's a really good shout.
I wrote positive stuff about Ware, and I said I think he's going to get in an open gym and NBA executives are going to be in their feelings because 7'2", 30 with length and potential outside shot. He's going to look really good against the chair and workouts. Not trying to be a buzzkill today, but I guess I think Jalen Tyson could be one of those names of, is this a guy that's just thriving because he has all the keys to the castle right now for a team that's
upperclassmen on a bad team with no restrictions?
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Zach Edey.
Everyone knows how I feel about that.
The whole town knows Frank.
Yeah,
I mean, just had another one. I don't necessarily agree with this, but I think the argument could be made for Furphy as well.
Could be made for Furphy. A lot of guys you can make this argument for. I don't agree. Someone could say Connect.
I don't think so, because I think that, well, depends how you look at it against.
I don't agree.
Neither do I. But the argument for that would be Tennessee's offense is just, that's not what they do. They're a defensive team. And he's kind of the only consistent self-creator on that team. So he's allowed to do basically whatever he wants on that end, which leads to some of the numbers that he's been posting. The counter to that is Rick Barnes isn't notorious for giving long leashes. So he's more than earned that and kind of created that role for himself.
All right, I'm going to move on to another question, because I feel like we might be thinking about that one for like an hour. Mavs draft, shout out Rich, good friend. He said thoughts and rankings on Anton Watson of Gonzaga. Pretty much a little bit of a super sleeper here that I think some people like. So Watson this year averaging 14.9 points, 7.5 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1.7 steals, shooting splits of 61, 45, 65. The 45 is on 1.5 attempts per game. Watson's an intriguing one. I saw him in person when I went to go scout Chet. And I was like, this kid could just be a fun one down the road after a couple of years of just grooming. And he's like 6'8", but jumps out of the gym, physical. He also seems like a guy that maybe teams try to steal him at the end of the second because they don't want him to be an undrafted guy, or he goes to the G League and teams quickly realize, like, hey, this guy could be something. What are your thoughts? Any general thoughts?
I just don't know what he is at the next level. Because he's listed 6'8". I don't think he can play on the perimeter. I know he's shooting almost 45% from three, but it's on 38 attempts on the season. So the smallest of sample sizes possible. All of his numbers are incredibly impressive this year, but he's also a lot older. He's always played with really good physicality. I think some of the passing flashes that he's shown has been really impressive. The rebounding, the interior finishing, all that stuff has been really good. He's been really efficient. I just don't know how a 6'8" center really translates to the league. And just historically, this has been one of my biggest blind spots, has been these kind of undersized centers. I just really struggle to buy in on them. I think his defensive numbers are a little inflated. So I think he could just be one of these really good college players. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm really skeptical on how his game translates to the next level, despite the numbers and the efficiency and effectiveness that he's been posting pretty much all season.
Okay, I'm moving on to another one. Our good friend, Daniel Mortensen. Favorite fits for Dalton Connect, Johnny Furphy, and Kevin McCullough.
Oh, boy.
Always fun when we got to pull up the Tankathon.
Yeah, that's exactly
favorite fits.
I just need. So are we talking about like reasonable draft range or just?
Well, you projected Furphy at 5 to Detroit. So I guess I don't know what your reasonable draft range is.
Well, I've been told Furphy's going. That it would be surprising if he fell out of the lottery. So,
yeah, we've heard that a lot. So, and I've seen a lot of mainstream boards.
Is Furphy not fun on the Pistons?
He's fun on every team. He's Johnny Furphy. Johnny F. and Furphy. Favorite fits.
Okay, so should we say like starting at 10 or later
Yes,
for these guys? Okay.
because I also get to 10 and convince myself he'd be a lot of fun in OKC.
He would be a lot of fun.
A
In
lot of
OKC.
fun there.
I really think that Furphy's pretty independent of fit to some extent. Where
I mean, I'm looking at every
I
team.
love
I'd
him
like
in Orlando.
I'd love him in Orlando too.
New
Okay, well,
York,
it's just
Philly.
yeah, I like him everywhere. How about Dalton Connect?
I think that one's a little trickier.
See, I could buy him at OKC just because he gives them what they need, but I also could see them moving into different directions. Portland, Chicago,
Again, I think Orlando makes sense.
Orlando again is going to make a lot of sense.
Another kind of wing creator, shooter.
He probably makes a
good
lot of sense in Miami and would be a disaster with him and Hame because they could just play the "No one believed in us" card.
Yeah,
A
that
lot of fun
defense
with
would
that.
also be a disaster with him and
Oh,
Hero.
of course it would, but they'll figure it out. Heat culture. Toronto, if they double down on getting shooters, maybe. I don't think Dalton's New York.
I don't like Atlanta. Feels like he would just kind of get lost in the mix of stuff there with Griffin and Bogey and Buffkin, and it just feels like too much of the same thing. Chicago, maybe at 12.
Maybe. If he fell to Phoenix, it's probably a heck of an addition. Or if they try to trade up to go get him.
Who was he? And then the other one was McCullough.
Yeah, McCullough is wherever. Whoever believes in him, I believe he's going to fix.
I like Atlanta.
Atlanta makes some
Philly.
sense. I know Simon, shout out Simon's probably going to hate another guard, but I think McCullough just plays too many positions that it's not just like, oh, you're drafting a guard. I think you're drafting a wing that could either bring the ball up, play off the ball, or switch to guard. You know, he could play down to guard, or I guess could play up, whatever. But I'm saying he's going to defend multiple positions at a high level. You're going to want him on the court at the end of games. New York would be a dream for McCullough, I think. Miami.
Yeah, I feel like Miami's the easier obvious one. I really, for me, it's anywhere that's not desperate for on ball creation.
Yeah.
Anywhere that just kind of needs someone to fill in the gaps, could use a corner shooter. I know his percentages have fallen off, but as just the shot attempts that he's been taking, I think are just not what he's going to be asked to do at the next level. But someone who can attack closeouts, move the ball, play exceptional team defense. So Philly, New York, Phoenix, Miami. I think those all make sense.
Jasper, he's got a couple good ones. One is Jamal Shedd or Mark Sears, just a real deep hitter.
Boy.
I would say Mark Sears for me.
I think same.
But I do like Shedd. I think those are, I'm going to actually, my part 2 of my piece, I'm going to be talking about both of those guys because I think those are some serious potential two-way guys to keep an eye on that could make some noise. What Sears is doing this year is just unreal. Whew.
Yeah. I think I would lean the same.
And then his second part, how many freshmen will be drafted, which is going to drive Metcalf crazy because he's going to have to go count. So if we're excluding,
we're just looking at
guys that are like 2005 borns because technically 2005 born, Ron Holland would be a freshman. Bizelis, 2004 born would be a freshman. I'm just doing college. I think in my top 60 right now, I have 15 freshmen, but there's some that are outside that I could see get drafted instead.
So I have like 9 or 10 in my first round right now.
Oh, that's an even better way to do it. How many do I have in my
first round? 1, 2, 3. I don't think freshmen should. I think if they're getting a second round grade, I think they should go back. I just don't think it makes sense to try it.
I've got 10 in my top
for non-guaranteed money.
I've got 10 in my top 30. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
And the fringe one there for me is Kwame Evans. It feels like he has, he's a 20 for me, but seems like he's kind of getting mixed reviews. So it'll be really interesting to see how he closes out the season and kind of tests and see what he feels is best. But he would probably be the fringe one for me because the other names are Cody would shock me if he doesn't declare, Castle, Furphy, Jacoby, Reed again. Maybe he returns if that NIL money is just absurd and he's getting maybe closer to a 20, picking the 20s than 10. I don't think he should either. I don't think he should either. But you never know.
The problem is a lot of these guys have to look themselves in the mirror and say, "Do I want to return
to a much tougher class?"
I've already started to put my 25 board together, and I'm not kidding. I was like 40 names in, and I was like, "Ooh, this is fun!" Like, it's just like goodness. So, like, if you're returning, you have to be very convinced you can make some noise. In which next year, everyone's going to hype that class up even more because we're talking about going to this year's Nike Hoop Summit, and the four of us are already giddy with like the rosters. So imagine NBA teams. Once they start to see those guys come in, they're going to be, oh gosh. So it's going to get weird with guys like George from Miami. There's going to be a lot of surprise, like, whoa, they're staying in, which we have to get interested about.
I think Caison's going to be a first rounder.
I think Cason is too, but I'm saying Justin Edwards. So I'm in my top 60 right now. And everyone's like, what? I don't.
He's in my should return bucket.
But he could be a guy that's like, I'm going, which he shouldn't. He should keep waiting. KJ Lewis, Arizona. Could be.
Should return,
but it could be. Murray Boyles, South Carolina, buzzing lately.
Yeah, I'm
There's just guys like that. They're like, all of a sudden, the deadline this year for declaring or not is going to be the most fun I've ever had because I'm just going to be like, whoo, here we go. So I think that's a heavy question.
Right, even a guy like Caleb Foster, who I don't think should declare, I think he should return.
It's a good one.
But he's been pretty good. Some of the stuff he's been showing this last month has been really encouraging.
So that's why I could see Kwame going.
Right.
But also, you never know.
I think he should for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I'm going through some fun question. Here we go. Trevor, having some real fun with this. If the Celtics and Timberwolves faced off in the finals this year, would you and Metcalf survive a 7-game series, or would it just be no pods for a month?
No, we wouldn't have to worry about it going to 7 because Wolves in 4.
So here's my thing with the Celtics. I'm very relaxed and calm about the NBA regular season until second half of it. Like, I'm ready to roll now. Now I'm shifting into fan mode, hardcore. When it gets to the playoffs, like, I don't want to talk to anyone because I'm just like, it's now it's game time. Let's go to war. If me and Metcalf had to face in the finals, I don't know if I could do a pod because he'd make comments about I don't know if I could do it.
I'm pretty good about walking the line of how much to poke the bear. I would get one good one in, and then they would be a little more subtle after that.
The problem is, like, I would want to be like, oh, like someone would be like, you guys should do a playback of you guys watching the game, and I'd be like, hell no. I don't want to I don't want to watch games with anyone. I'm not one of those like, hey, let's have a watch party. No, everyone leave me alone.
Especially if it's
throw me in a hotel room by myself.
Especially if it's my team and like the Lions were a half away from being in the Super Bowl, I would have been watching that alone in my basement because I would have been a mess.
Football wise, if the Vikings were in the Super Bowl, I'd be like, I'm renting a hotel room. I'll see you tomorrow. Like, I don't want to, because I'm not one of those, like, I scream at the TV, but like, I don't want to interact with anyone.
Yeah. Like,
because you always get the friend that doesn't know what's going on. And then they're asking questions and I'm like, oh my gosh, can I focus on why Jaylen Brown can't dribble the ball with his left hand right now? I don't need to ask, like, okay. So yeah,
and like Michigan in the national championship. You think I had people over for that? No. Barely let my wife in the room. Mainly because she was horrified of my watching habits. But no, it wouldn't be good. Let's finish up with a couple more, but let's take a quick ad break. Okay, Rucker. Let's kind of wrap this up. How many more we got left?
Getting through most of them. We've got some overlap. Trying to get some other good ones. Coleman Hawkins question. I don't really know if I want to go down that road. We'll pass. Sorry.
Not a fan.
Unless we answered your other one. Yeah, he's not on my board. How about Jasper again? Where do you rank Burks and Thiero among all the Kentucky prospects? Thiero's tough for me because I like him a lot.
He's not on my board.
He was on my board for most of this process. He's not on my top 60 right now. I could still see some teams being intrigued. I feel like that's another guy that would be really smart for another year.
I think he's kind of like a fun two-way flyer type guy, like a Jay Sean Tate-esque player. I'm not probably spending draft capital on that guy though, unfortunately.
Wouldn't be shocked if he got drafted. Would not be shocked if he should go test the waters. He should get feedback. And then if he kicks ass at the combine, stay in. And if he doesn't, he should go back for another year.
Yeah.
Try to become a consistent 3-point shooter. Am I wrong anywhere there?
No.
Okay. Simon asked why the Hawks hate him. I don't know where to go with that.
That feels like a personal
issue.
fine.
I feel fine. Simon's going to have a big offseason. I'm feeling good for the Hawks. Every fan base that's struggling right now in their feelings, I want to adopt them. I want to bring them in. Wizards fans adopted me. I love you guys already. I'm ready for that. The Hawks are next on my watch list. I want to help the Hawks turn it around. So, Simon, stay positive. That's all the questions, really.
All right, last one from Cosmo in the chat. Where you at with guys like Bub Carrington and Baba Miller? I've taken Bub out of my top 60. Unfortunately, I think he needs to return. The shots just completely disappeared.
I've moved Bub down a bit. He's trending south. I want to keep him in. Still have him in that 40-ish range, but I'm also getting to the point with guys like that where I'm like, why aren't you going back? Why would you declare? I want to buy in on him. And he's becoming one of the ultimate wild cards of this year's draft. Because if he just shocks us and is like, I want to go pro, where do we put him? Like, where's the number? Because when he does some stuff on the court that I'm like, man,
like the passing has been fantastic all year.
The passing, the size, how young he is. He can put it on the ground, hit you with a counter, and then he has that little step back, like mid-range off 1 foot, which I love. Like it's a clear, like that's his go-to move. That feels good. And then I'm always trying to buy in. And the frustrating thing is like, I always get, when games start, I'm always box score watching because I'm either doing the stats for no ceilings. I'm like, okay, who do I got to keep an eye on for having a good, box score for social, or who am I going to watch tomorrow?
Yeah.
And Bub will have like a start where he's just like 3 for 5. And I'm like, ooh, here we go. And then I look up later and he's 5 for 15. What?
Yeah.
Like, so it's just one of those things where I think the flashes are legit. The upside's legit. He'd be a problem with an off season of just being like, I'm going to war.
That's what I think too.
For next year. I think he'd be a problem. But guys like this all of a sudden get enticed of like, ooh, maybe my NBA teams might be like, hey, we like him a lot as a pre-draft guy. And then they try to get him to stay in, and someone wants to draft him we get the promise season, and then all of a sudden it passes up. And he's a wild card. He's becoming an absolute wild card. So I'd love for him to go back for another year because I really do think there's something there. But this is going to be a wild year. There's going to be curveballs like that. Everyone's already expecting Bronny to declare despite just no.
Yeah. All right.
But we'll see. Go ahead.
Promise last one from the chat, then we'll move on to stock game. Old buddy, Nathan Grubel. What are the positions, archetypes of players you're noticing trending out of the NBA that may be affecting your evaluations negatively on certain prospects?
We miss you too, Nathan. Hope all is well. Metcalf hit me with that start. I was too happy to see Nathan's name show up, so I got to process the question.
I think the kind of specialists are really disappearing quickly. Like when I say specialists, I mean the first one that comes to mind is like just the off ball shooter. If you can't put it on the floor and do something with it, if you can't make the extra pass, if you can't defend at some level, if there isn't a real versatility to your game as a guard or a wing, it's really tough to get minutes. I think those types of guys are really kind of falling away, and it's all about size and versatility. Uh, Everyone on the court needs to be able to dribble, pass, and shoot now. And if you can't do one or two of those things, the other one better be at a fucking elite level. Otherwise, you're not getting minutes, let alone a guaranteed contract. So I think those, and then obviously the small point guards. It's tough because this class is full of small point guards, but that has kind of made me a little cooler on guys like Reed and Rob and McCain and Jackson Shellstad. I love how they play. They're intoxicating with how good they are, but I just get hesitant on how much an NBA team is going to buy into it and how much they can get exploited at the next level.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic actual question from Nathan, aka Draft Deeper. We miss you. Because I think this year is going to test a lot of these theories more than ever. I'm right there with Metcalf. I think the shoot first guys are becoming extinct because you need to offer something else. You can't just be Max Strus. I think that's where we get to a problem with Caravan, which is why we want to buy in more on Caravan. But I think right now we're like, well, it's a lethal shooter, but what else can Caravan give us on the court? And I'm not trying to do that in any bad way because I think he's a smart player that is gritty and has a lot of tools. It's tough because in a way, I think we're getting away from the athletic big that just has rim protection. But then Missy does it at such an intriguing level that I think teams are like, well, we'll find a spot for that. Because now as you're a big man, you need to have something else that you can bring to the table if you're going to hang your hat on like, well, I'm a really good defender. Like, okay, well, what else? Because you got to bring something else. Oh, so good defender, good playmaker, PJ Hall, Filipowski, floor spacers. Like there's guys like that. I'm rooting for this class because I think it could bring back the small point guard, small floor general guys. It could. It needs to have like three of them click. It needs to have like Tyler Kolek and McCain and guys like that really click. But the one thing I would say, I think we're getting a little far from, and this might be a hot take, I think we're getting away from the projects. I think we're getting away from the teams wanting to draft the just super swing upside guys early. Saloon is a name that I'm thinking of right there. I think teams are going to, previous years, they might have taken him top 10 because they might have been like, hey, 6'9", crazy, young, freakish tools, the shots coming around. We'll work with the feel. It'll develop. It'll come with time. I think now teams are like, I don't know if I want to take that 7th. I might be more comfortable taking that 15th or 16th with another first round pick. So I think just the super projects, I think teams are getting a little further away and being like, what can someone bring to the table? We want that. You got to think all these teams picking early. They're tired of picking early. Front offices are up for contract extensions. You want to get staying alive. You want to help. So I think maybe that, just the trying to draft the project with crazy upside early and being like, maybe we could find gold. I think you're seeing this year, other guys are going to be in higher demand.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, we went way longer on that than I thought we were going to, but that was fun. Let's take our last ad break and then we'll jump into the stock game. Okay, Rucker. Let's get going with this. Stock game. Here we go. I got the sheet up on the board for everyone to see. There's been a heck of a lot of movement. Highly recommend going and checking out Corey's latest kind of community-wide consensus rankings over at NoCeilingsNBA.com. A lot of really fascinating movement, and I think there were like 4 or 5 different guys who had the number 1 ranking across the 6 or 7 sites that Core uses. So really interesting to kind of compare and contrast all those guys. Sheets up on the board. Do you have a move that you would like to make right away, or you thinking where you at?
Yeah, I do. Because I had $362 left.
Correct.
Everyone's gonna love what I'm about to do. I'm gonna take. We're gonna be quick with these because I've already prepped all of my moves. I just have to find his price. I'm gonna take 100 shares of Johnny Furphy.
You son of a bitch.
I'm ready to roll, baby.
God damn it.
I'm gonna make up some ground because I saw that margin's getting a little smaller. So Tyler Rucker is making a little bit of a comeback here, folks.
See, I knew I shouldn't have been a gentleman and let you go first.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna jump all. This is why I kept money last time, folks. This is Art of War status. So, yep, Furphy.
Okay, well, you're a prick. All
right.
Okay. Well, there goes my sweet prince. You. All right. I'm gonna sell off some Reed Shepherd stock. How much higher than this do you think he could really get? Consensus ranking of 8.8.
I don't think much.
Neither do I.
It's unfortunate because I looked at a couple of those guys up there and I was like, how much higher could they get? Is it worth the buy? And I don't really know if much. I think the one name that you have that I think could start to climb a little bit is maybe Castle. But I also think some people are just not going to be.
I think Risa Shea could even climb a little more too. I'm gonna hold on to Risa Shea. I'm gonna sell 150 shares. I'm gonna cash out on Reed Shepherd for a casual total. So on those final 150 shares, I'm earning a profit of $1,500 because I bought him when he was at a penny stock for just $1. So Reed Shepherd, liquidating my shares of him. All right, what do you want to do?
I've already got. So I have $100 left, basically.
You have 160.
160. I'm gonna go 50 shares of Cason George.
God.
Yep.
You're a goddamn weasel.
Let's go to war.
I can't wait for your Celtics to get swept in the playoffs.
Oh man, if you guys don't want to talk to me for like 5 months, then
we'll keep this up.
Now I'm running out of money, so I gotta find some money to sell.
Okay. All right. Risa Shea, I'm gonna hold. Castle, I'm gonna hold. Even though I'm losing money on him, but I think this is the low point for him. He's looked so good recently. I think Jacoby. Oh boy, I got a lot of money. I need to buy someone because you are being a weasel. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna. Almost show my hand. I hate this. You know what? I'm actually going to buy a few more shares of Castle. Let's see. What is he currently at? He is currently at an average ranking of 10.3 for 971 a share. If we do 50. Yeah, I'm going to do another 50 shares of Castle.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
I'm going to keep this really easy for you, or I hope this is easy for you. Caravan, Diarro, Carrington, Topich.
Oh, one move at a time, big guy.
No, I'm just okay. Well, then, all right, fine.
Move.
Okay, fine. Here, I'm gonna sell all of my stock in Dalton Connect.
Ooh, okay.
Because he's at 16.5 right now. I don't think the jump's going to be that much, and I like that profit right there.
Alrighty. Nice little $400 profit. Gets you back up to a little over 650 total. Don't
Okay,
connect,
then
fully liquidated.
you're up.
I am. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where is... I'm going to go Deron Holmes.
Oh, that's a good one.
Let's see what 50 shares gets me. He is currently at an average ranking of 45.5 for a price of $220 per share. Let's drag these formulas down.
It's unreal how much of a wizard you are with this stuff.
Okay, $110. You know what? Let's go up to 80 shares
Okay.
for 176. Why not? You know, why not? No. Like that. Okay. Where you
I'm going to
at?
sell my 5 shares of Nikola Topic. Give me that $91. I just don't. I think he's reached his max. I'm not going to double down to try to get it going a little bit. I think that's fine.
There you go. Okay.
Just collect.
I'm going to... Let's see. I'm going to cash out on Jackson Robinson. It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, I hear ya.
To the smallest of profits. Big old $1.68 of profit there. All right, where you at?
How much do I have? I've got what, 793?
Yes.
I'm gonna buy 100 shares of Jalen Tyson.
Okay.
At $210 a share.
Look at Big Z getting up to 48.
I know.
That is something. Okay. Let's see.
Gosh, I wanted to jump all over the Jared McCain stuff, but he's at a price that I'm like, that's kind of right there.
I almost did that too. I was like, how much more is he really going to jump? I think he could, but I'm not super confident in it. Alex Tui, I'm selling off. I still like him long term, but
me too.
He is just... he does not have a whole lot of fans. So just get my money back on that.
I've got 583, and I'm going to buy another 100 shares of Johnny Furphy.
You prick. You don't even like him that much.
I do like him.
No, yeah, as you say about a guy in your 20s. It's fine.
Cosmo with a good quote. Rucker put on his finance.
No,
bro hat. I'm going to war.
That off. Get that off.
The money would happen. It's amazing what happens when I prepare.
I need to stop sending you this ahead of time. Make you do your own homework. Okay, I'm selling off Bronny because
I can't wait to find out that he declares, and I'm going to be like, what are we doing?
He's gonna, but not 700. It's just USC, very bad.
I think Collier's looked better lately, though. I will say that.
He has.
Am I up? Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna sell Ryan Dunn completely. Liquidate. Love him. Just give me that money. He's at 22. I could see him going a little bit back up, but I don't really think he is also.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, so I did buy more Castle.
It's amazing. Everyone's just staying positive with Almanza.
I don't get it. Okay, I'm going to. I'm gonna go Tristan Da Silva. Let's see, what's he at?
He's at 34, so 292.
There he is. 50. Yeah, let's go 50. Why not? Okay. Anyone for you?
I'm gonna go sell all of my Carrington for a nice profit of $13. Give me a Happy Meal.
What price is he at on here? 239.
239.
That's good time to sell.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna go Tyler Kolek. I'm gonna buy more of him.
18 assists last night, huh?
That's absurd. Holy shit.
It's also a tweet that's like, excuse me? Kiss your mother with that mouth? 18 assists?
Okay.
A lot of people were angry when we had him on a mock draft going to the first round.
Yeah, well, he's kind of good at basketball.
Everyone's buying into that now.
Any other moves you want to make?
Love the haters. Yeah, I'm gonna.
You sold all of Ryan Dunn, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna sell all of my Missy stock. Oh yeah, there's a shocker for some people.
Oh.
He's at 17.3. I'm like, what? He can maybe get up to 15-ish, but that's a good profit for me. So I'm gonna take that and run.
Okay.
And then after you go, I'm gonna start throwing some more money at some people on my board already.
Okay, I'm gonna go Tyler Smith. I don't think it's unreasonable that he gets into the top 10.
I don't either.
Buzz
is heating up.
40. No, I have money. Stop being a coward, Tyler. Spend your money. I'm gonna go 80 shares of Tyler Smith. Where you going?
Okay, so I previously had 50 shares of Devin Carter at $1.
Correct.
I'm gonna buy another. Give me another. Where is he again? Give me another 100 at 278.
278. Alrighty.
I feel like people are gonna keep pumping that one with some gasoline, get him up into the 20s.
Yeah, he's
PJ Hall at 40. Just what are we doing?
I'm gonna go a couple.
There's a name on here that I want to throw money at, but I'm terrified that I'm just gonna be burning money.
I think you should go with your heart. I think you should do what you feel is right. And by that I mean burn money,
because it could swing this whole entire. It could make me the victor.
Oh, really?
Of my district.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
Good film. Good film.
I'm gonna go Neek Clifford. Please help if I spell that right.
Wild card. I'm waiting for everyone to get in on that.
Not on the board. All right, where are you going?
I'm gonna go 100 shares of. I'm gonna say his name wrong. I'm sorry, guys. Ulrich, the true wild card of this entire class.
What
is
are
it,
Ulrich?
Ulrich? I need to watch him, and I need to watch way more. Yeah. But I just know the buzz I've heard, and all that is he's rumored to be going to be playing at Nike Hoop Summit. All that is he goes and kicks ass there, and then says 2 words, I'm in, and then woof, that's going to just skyrocket this class. So if he goes and looks great and gets good feedback, I don't understand why he wouldn't just be like, I'm ready to roll. Let's go. Because someone draft him early. But I'm getting dangerous there. I'm just saying, screw it. If he, that could skyrocket. So I I hate a lot of those guys. Everyone comments to us and sends us, "Why not him? Why isn't he in the latest mock?" And we hate doing that. We hate being those guys of being like, "Well, we don't know, so let's throw him in there."
Yeah.
But as we get more intel, as we get more buzz, we'll pivot. That's always what we do.
Agreed. Kind of along those same lines of taking a big old flyer. I'm gonna go Malik Lewis.
Yeah, that's another one.
Again, haven't watched enough. I know he has a lot of fans, so for $1, I'll double check my spelling on that later. But I think that's right. For the G League Capitans. All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 100 shares of Colin Murray.
Oh,
Who else?
Fuck. Oh, that was a good one.
I came to work today.
That was a really good one. That was really
and then I'll save for next time because this has been a lengthy episode. I was gonna sell a bunch more, but I'll just save it. It's all good.
We can rattle off cells here.
Yeah, we'll rattle. Yeah.
I'm gonna go Antonio Reeves.
You can't stop fighting that. You've lost that love and feeling. Except you found it with Antonio.
He's very.
He got some. I forgot who wrote about. Someone said some stuff, and I was like, "That's a little bit of a loud endorsement," So
yeah, I have him as a top 40 guy.
No, you do.
Okay. Anyone else for you?
No, I'm good. That's great. It's fantastic. Thanks for everyone joining with us.
Then I'm going to hop on Jared McCain real quick.
Great.
D equals that. Is that too pricey? Nah, I got plenty of money left. God, I appreciate Reed Shepherd funding my whole portfolio.
Yeah.
It was very kind of him. Okay, cool. Stock game. That was fun.
Fantastic.
No Ceilings Plus members, make sure to get me your moves in the next week or so. Rucker, real quick.
We got one more thing.
We got Rookie Roulette.
Don't leave us yet, folks. We got one more thing. Rookie Roulette, and then a special little addition. Metcalf's got a surprise right now up his sleeve.
Yeah. So Rookie Roulette this week, Cason Wallace, very fun player. He was 10th pick to the Thunder, 10th pick on 10th overall on our final board. Really just kind of fascinating play finisher for the Thunder. Incredibly low usage, but just being asked to do a whole bunch of dirty work. I have an interview with Andrew Schlecht coming up in just a couple minutes here, which was very fun. Andrew's the best, provided a lot of insight into the Thunder's kind of thought process with Cason, how they're using him, and how valuable he can be going forward. So make sure to hang out for that. But Rucker, I wanted to make sure that you got your kind of say and how you've viewed Cason so far this year compared to where you had him on your board and whatnot.
Yeah, I loved him as a prospect from Kentucky. I thought it was one of those guys that continued to do everything on the basketball court that I wanted to see. When I was evaluating him from high school days, I think, popped at me right away with his defense, with his mentality, shifty, plays at his own speed, makes people come down to his speed, can navigate. And then, as a high school prospect, I was like, what can the outside shot just come around? And then he shot the crap out of it at Kentucky. He had some rough stretches, but then all of a sudden would bounce back and just light the net on fire. And I was like, why aren't we buying into him more often? Also, I love the mentality he's had since high school of like, you have a 2-on-1 with Cason Wallace, and it's just right up his wheelhouse. So I think that mentality, that confidence in the defense, his size. I think I had him 10th on my final big board for no ceilings. I've loved him as a prospect. I thought it was a slam dunk when they took him. I was like, that's another great piece. That's the mentality shift that we talk about in previous episodes. Like, teams need to take that next leap of shifting your mentality. And he's looked fantastic with OKC. I know the numbers might not overwhelm people.
The advanced numbers are pretty impressive.
Yeah, advanced numbers will get you in your feelings. But for folks that can't see that stuff, you might look and be like, well, it's limited minutes. He's earned a spot on a playoff team, potential title contender right now. He has earned minutes, and I think it's going to be one of those guys next year. We're going to be like, they got to keep Cason Wallace on the court somehow. So I've loved what I've seen. I was excited when you threw the, hey, Andrew wants to come on. I was like, phew, great, fantastic. So I think we love Andrew. He's been a superstar on previous episodes. So yeah, I think fans are in for a treat, and I've just loved what I've seen from Cason.
Agreed. We're gonna kick it to my interview with Andrew real quick, but let's first we gotta figure out, while I still have you, who we got next week. So let's bring up the wheel. All right, here we go.
I feel like we're hitting GG Jackson time sooner or later, and it's gonna have to do some deep dive film. No way, no way.
Alrighty, next
week.
week.
Let's go. GG.
Next
shout
week.
out to my Shrek fans. Wow. Okay.
So, that'll be fun.
I swear I didn't know. I just was like, this has got to be GG sooner or later, or Metcalf's pulling my leg. Okay.
So great. That'll be a lot of fun.
That'll be good. I'll like to watch his film. We'll break down some clips. I'll get some clips ready for GG.
Love it. So next week, GG Jackson. This is a great episode. Gonna kick it to my interview with Andrew Schlecht here. Stay tuned. Andrew rocks, as always. Very excited to welcome this week's guest to talk about Cason Wallace, one of the kind of more intriguing rookies this year, and one of our favorite rookies from last season. Obviously, rookie from Kentucky with the Oklahoma City Thunder this year. Our guest this week is a recurring guest and the inspiration for this whole segment with their Team of the Week segment over at the Athletics NBA show and the Slam and Jam episode. You know him also from the Down to Dunk podcast. He is Andrew Schlecht. Andrew, thank you so much for coming back on and taking the time. How's it going?
It's going great. I just got back from Thunder practice. Got to talk to Gordon Hayward for the first time. Did not get to talk to Cason Wallace, although it would have been perfect if we could. So, no, I'm grateful that you asked me back on.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. I guess quick sidetrack. Initial impressions with the Gordon Hayward infusion into this team.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of fits like a glove for this team. You shoot, it's kind of becoming like a Thunder cliche. Is like they want all their guys to shoot past dribble, and that's what he does. He's really, really, really smart player on both ends. He's a bigger wing, which is what they don't really have on their team, and so I think he'll fit in quite well. So I'm excited to see him tomorrow. He's supposed to play against the Clippers. I don't know how much, because he hadn't played since December. So we'll see what that looks like. How much, what kind of game shape he's in. But I expect that we'll see him maybe 10, 15 minutes tomorrow at least.
Love it. Well, this is already off the rails. I told you beforehand we were just talking about Cason, and I'm already lying to you. So off to a hot start. But there are a million things that I could obviously ask you about this Thunder team. Maybe down the road, Chet Holmgren will pop up on the wheel. But that's a future endeavor. But with Cason Wallace, it seemed like when the Thunder took him, it caught a lot of people off guard because the initial thought, it wasn't, oh, this team needs another guard. They need another kind of combo-y, pocket knife, do it all type of player. Were you surprised when they made that selection, and just kind of what were your initial reactions and the, I guess, overall Thunder community's reactions when he was drafted?
Yeah, I think that there was some surprise there, because when people think about this Thunder team, and people still kind of think this, is like they need bigger guys around Chet. And so the thought at the time of the draft, or at least like some of the hope, was, hey, could they get in on Jarris Walker? Could they get Taylor Hendricks? Those are the two guys that I think I said those names 1,000 times in the span of like 3 weeks. People talked a lot about those guys. I was a big Kobe Buffkin guy. I thought that he really kind of fit like the shoot past dribble, prototype for the Thunder. And then when you start, and also it was a surprise in that the Thunder are coming a little bit out at this past draft. The Thunder are going into a new phase where they really need guys that are ready to play now, because it's going to be really, really hard to play big minutes on this team if you're not ready to go. And honestly, maybe they did have Jarris Walker and Taylor Hendricks on their radars, but if you watch them this year, you're like, oh, they probably wouldn't play for this Thunder team right now. Same for Kobe Buffkin. Like, Buffkin doesn't play for the Hawks. He plays a lot for the G League. He's played some with the Hawks, but mostly with the G League. And so now having that understanding, like Cason was one of the guys, he's still really young, but he's one of the guys you're like, oh yeah, he's got a role in the NBA right away, just because he has this like baseline level of defense. Shot making is there. He does enough ball handling, enough passing where you're like, all right, like you can give him a small role. And that's exactly what they've given him. So at the time, I was a little surprised that they chose Cason, but after kind of understanding a little bit more where they believe they're at, it didn't really shock me to kind of like put the piece of the puzzle like back together afterwards. Like, oh, okay, I see it now, kind of thing.
I love that you brought up those three names because those were three of my kind of dream landing scenarios for the Thunder going into last year's draft. And Cason was right along with them, especially if you're thinking along the Buffkin lines.
Mm-hmm.
I know you always kind of do your homework and talk to a ton of people. So was Cason like at all on your radar, or did you kind of have any kind of preconceived notions about him coming into the season, or I guess post draft?
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely on my radar. I wondered if he was a bit small to play on this team because they do have a lot of smaller guards. I also wondered about they just signed Lou Dort to a contract extension, and so he seemed like kind of like super Dort to me, and I wondered if they would want to have guys that are that play the exact same role, or if they would like bring him in as a guy to replace Lou eventually. And so like there was definitely that was on my radar, maybe more than anything. It was like, okay. And I also just wondered about the shooting reliability too, whenever I thought of him. As far as like pre-draft stuff, like the Thunder don't leak hardly anything ever about who they like and what they want to do. And they're very notorious for that. And so I didn't really have much of an idea. It's really, it honestly makes it a little bit more fun because then you get to like, you have last year's draft to look at and you're like, okay, this is what I know now about the team. How can I project it onto this next class? And what does that look like? And that's, I think we definitely discussed Cason, but I don't think we talked about him as like a guy like, oh my gosh, this should get Hawkins was another guy where like, oh man, like the shooting is clearly there. He's got a little bit more size than Cason does, at least at height. He's definitely not stronger, but he's definitely taller. So he was another guy that we talked about a lot, but again, a lot of it was bigs. I was a big Anthony Black guy. I thought maybe they could trade up to get Anthony Black. I don't know how much Anthony Black would play on this team now after watching him. I know he's like, quote unquote, shot the ball well, but no one's guarding him, out to three, maybe ever. And so it's becoming harder and harder to fit guys like that on this team. And with the way we've seen Josh Giddey fit overall with the team, it makes a lot of sense that they wouldn't get him. So anyways, yeah, I loved, this draft class and kind of like dissecting it. It's such a fun class.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys haven't really been amazing yet, but I think that there's this class moving forward is going to make a big imprint on the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, and even in college and this year, it feels like Cason's kind of doing a lot of the similar stuff where he's not necessarily the do-it-all superstar where he's taking over games and being the focal point of the offense or defense, but he's just kind of filling in any gap that's needed in whatever rotation or lineup that he's kind of put into. So when you look at some of his advanced numbers, like the net on-off net rating differential and, on-off stats are always imperfect, but it's at minus 5.8, not ideal, but not shocking for a rookie. What has he kind of been asked to do for this team that has a superstar, an SGA, a burgeoning superstar, or two of them, and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams? What has kind of been the role that he's been asked to fill so far for this team?
He plays a very small role on this team. He plays about 20 minutes per game. So he's like in the game a lot, but they ask him to do a lot of different things. And his role has kind of evolved a lot as the season has gone on. So at the beginning of the season, they were just like, let's figure out what this guy is. And so they would like put him in the dunker spot at times, and they would have him do guard to guard screen rolls. He would pick and pop, or he would be the guy who's popping out to three. Now he's much more of like a Lou Dort replacement in the lineup where he goes out there and he defends one of the best perimeter players and he's taking open threes. And that's kind of what he does. And he'll be opportunistic at times with driving and kind of getting to the hoop, taking mid-range shots, but it's mostly catch and shoot threes and that's about it. Like, he didn't really get to the free throw line. He doesn't really initiate a ton of action on his own. He's done that a little bit, but it's really more of, like you said, they're plugging him in different places, and they feel very comfortable with him. And the thing about him that Mark Daignault talked about from day one is his intelligence. Is that because of his intelligence as a basketball player, they feel very comfortable putting him wherever. And it's also helped that he's like shot the ball like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 50, 40, 84, I think, for the season, which is, I mean, I would not have guessed that he could have done something like that, going into this season. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely taken on a sizable role with regards to minutes, but with regards to like usage, let me look up his usage because it's like, I mean, it's like,
I think cleaning the glass had him in like the first percentile. So
yeah,
it's
he's
like
12,
absolutely nothing.
yeah. Basketball Reference 12.3% usage. I mean, it's honestly kind of hard to know because I had somebody ask on my show Down to Dunk last week about could Cason Wallace be the next, star guard out of Kentucky? I'm like, I have no idea. Like he's a 12% usage. I mean,
Yeah.
how are you even supposed to know? Like, I mean, you look at the percentages, and you're like, oh yeah, he could do it. But like this, I mean, the diet's so small that how are you really supposed to know? Because he just doesn't shoot the ball all that much. I mean, he has 26 free throws in 54 games. It's a
Yeah.
really, really small role.
Yeah, and just kind of to build off of that, it is a small sample size, but the efficiency numbers right now are absolutely bonkers. You mentioned just kind of the raw shooting numbers, but and Clean the Glass has him in the 96th percentile in points per shot attempt, the 100th percentile in effective field goal rate. Synergy had him, 80th percentile in transition, 86th percentile spotting up, 97th percentile as the roll man. I love how they've kind of used him as the screener and roller and some of that stuff. But then also like 55th percentile as the pick and roll ball handler. But the sample size on all of it is so low. What's your kind of confidence that some of this is real, or are you kind of concerned that there's going to be a real big kind of coming back down to earth for him?
Yeah, I think there will be a regression when the usage increases. I mean, if not, then yeah, he's like a
a superstar. Yeah.
I mean, my guess is that he will shoot the ball more. They will find ways to get him more threes as he continues in his career, and we'll see. We'll see. My guess is that he's not a 41% 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Maybe he's like a 37, 38% 3-point shooter would be kind of my guess, and maybe just really good from the corners, which is what they would need anyways. So yeah, I would be surprised if this is who he continued to be. Yeah, he's 46% from the corners.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the kind of the perfect role player because at this point the Thunder have their 3 stars with Shea, J-Dub, and Chet. And now it's all about how do we find the guys that complement those guys the best? How do we and also how do we find guys that can play this style of defense with us? Cason's perfect because it's a lot of pack the paint, recover to the perimeter. I mean, you're running around like crazy. You're switching. There's cross matches everywhere. I mean, it's not the easiest defense to be a part of, which is why you see some guys kind of really struggle there. But if you are like a high effort player like Cason, like a Lou Dort, like Jalen Williams, you can really thrive in it. And that's where I've kind of seen him thrive, where he can be, I don't know if he can be like a star, but he can be like I think it was Doc Rivers to say you can be a star in your role, which is where I kind of think Cason fits into this puzzle. I don't know that there's a lot of room for him to be able to spread his wings as some like great scorer or a guy that averages, 20 points per game. I don't think there's room there for him, but I do think there's a ton of room for him to be I mean, he could supplant Dort eventually as a starter. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. If he is a bench player, I mean, he's going to be one of their best bench players. Are the Thunder going to be able to hang on to guys like Isaiah Joe, in the future? Is another question. And maybe he just fills that role where he just plays 30 minutes a night off the bench, where you just can plug him in wherever you want. So that would be my guess as to where this is all heading, is that he's going to be a very, very good role player for a very long time in the league.
So, and role players obviously are a big reason why teams end up winning championships, and the Thunder have ascended to that legitimate title contender realm now. So you kind of mentioned going forward as a role player. Do you think that's kind of more as do you think that he does have legitimate like bona fide backup point guard stuff where he can really run the offense and initiate stuff when Shea's off the floor and kind of take some of those responsibilities away from Shea that can help even boost his numbers then kind of down the road? Or do you think it's going to be more of that kind of pseudo blending of worlds between Dort and Isaiah Joe?
He definitely has more juice off the dribble than Joe and Dort do. And I wouldn't want to limit him and say that he couldn't become like a legit backup point guard. But the way that the Thunder handle their rotations typically is if Shea's not on the court, then usually J-Dub's on the court. And so he's going to handle the ball a lot, or Giddey's on the court. He's going to handle the ball a lot. So there's not a ton of opportunities because of the way that they stagger their lineups. He's all, this season he's always been more of a secondary creator, and he's thrived in that. But is there room for him to become a primary initiator of offense? Yeah, I think there is. Is Josh Giddey long for the Thunder? There's a lot of people that have questions about that. And perhaps Cason Wallace becoming a much better player, even over like to year 2 to year 3, year 4, it may become more obvious that like, oh, okay, this guy can take this role and actually do it better than Josh can because he is a better defender. He's a better shooter. He can do all these things, and he can handle and pass. But we're still a long ways off from that. It's all kind of theoretical. We've seen it, like you said, we've seen it in like very, very small chunks. And I don't know. And the Thunder, I give a lot of credit to Coach Degnault because he will just give guys just enough that they can handle. And he calls it clearing hurdles. He talked about like Chet and J-Dub just continue to clear hurdles over and over and over again. And they haven't exactly given Cason more hurdles to clear from what I've seen. And maybe that's happening behind the scenes. Like, we're not privy to everything, that the Thunder do. And so in game, I haven't seen them giving him a whole lot more responsibilities. They kind of have settled him into this role, but you do wonder over the summer that's their real first chance to get better. It's really tough to come in as like a much better player than you were at like the combine and all of that. But you get your first chance to become a better player. And we've seen what, Jalen Williams has been able to do. I mean, the guy looks like a future all-star now with just one summer. What does it look like for Cason, who gets to work out with these guys, who gets to kind of be under the wing of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is here since like his sophomore year of high school.
It's wild.
It's insane. And so I think he's going to have a chance, but there's the room to become like the big, like actualized like self is much smaller. The window is so much smaller to actually like spread your wings and become like some awesome, great, all-star potential type of player. So I think that there's more challenges for Cason than if he were drafted here like 2 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for the time. Huge fans of Cason Wallace over here. Very excited to see how him and this Thunder team continue to grow, especially since, God, they're so young. But please plug away, tell everyone where they can find you and how they can support all of your endeavors.
Yeah, go check out the Athletic NBA show. Subscribe to that wherever you get your podcasts. And then if you are into the Thunder, go listen to Down to Dunk and go check out our YouTube page. Just search Down to Dunk. We'd really appreciate that.
Everyone, please go support Andrew. He's the best. They do incredible work everywhere he's involved. So, Andrew, thank you again.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Can't thank Andrew enough. That was a really fun conversation. He provided a lot of light and kind of insight into Cason, who has been really, really impressive in such a small role this year. So if you're not already supporting Andrew, please make sure to go do so. He's just one of the best people in the business and deserves all your support. This episode was a blast. Thank you for everyone who joined us in the comments. To all of you listeners, subscribers, No Ceilings Plus subscribers, can't thank you guys enough for your support. It means the world, and the fact that our numbers continue to grow week over week is just a testament to all of you, and you're all just the absolute best. So in case you missed it, Tyler Rucker posted a awesome piece over at NoCeilingsNBA.com. It's just one of the most comprehensive cheat sheets for this draft. If you're behind and need to get caught up, go check it out. If you haven't watched enough tape on one guy and are looking to be sold on another, make sure to go check it out. He's covering pretty much everyone possible. And he will have a part 2 coming out, I think, next week. But all of that can be found over at NoCeilingsNBA.com and on his Twitter at Tyler_Rucker. You can also follow me on Twitter at TMetcalf11. I will have a piece on Jared McCain out on Friday, so make sure to go check that out as well. But if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and a 5-star rating. Till next time, see ya.